Hello everyone, my name is Nate. I am a certified strength and conditioning specialist as well as an athlete and a coach. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about knee pain and specifically patellofemoral pain or patellar tendinitis or patellar tendinopathy. They all mean the same thing. So this is something that I was dealing with for a year to a year and a half, and I was struggling. I was constantly in pain, like an 8 out of 10 pain, and it just kind of sucked. Everything that I did hurt, and it just kind of wore me out. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how I got out of knee pain, and hopefully it can help some of you guys out. So first of all, what is tendinopathy or tendinitis? It's basically just the tendon being overused, and then inflammation starts to accrue, and then if you don't stop doing what you're doing, little micro holes will appear in your tendon, which they hurt. That's why you get the pain. It's from the inflammation and the micro tears that happen. So this happens when load exceeds capacity. So there's a series of steps that will help you to stop feeling the pain. And the most important step, and step number one, is to stop doing what causes pain. So I didn't stop doing what caused pain, and that's what made my pain worse and actually prolonged my rehab period. So stop doing what causes pain. That's the major thing. Number two is going to be a load management protocol, which I will go over later or in a separate video. Number three is to start tracking. Number four is exercise progression. For the tracking phase, I want you to pick an exercise like a squat. Perform it right as you get out of your bed in the morning. Excuse me. This is going to be your baseline test throughout the entire process, and it should be a little provocative at first. So that means like it's just getting, you feel it. You feel the pain at first. So I want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 how much that squat hurts in the morning. Again, it could be a squat, it could be something else, but you have to pick what exercise is provocative to that tendon, whatever tendon you're dealing with. In this case, it was my knee, so it would be a squat. And then write down whatever it is out of a 10 every morning. And this will make sense a lot later when we talk about the exercise progressions, but it's something that you need to do. Secondly, write down what caused you the most amount of pain throughout the day. So if you're doing a workout and your warm-up was like a 2 out of 10 pain, and then as you get into your routine, it goes down to like a 1 or a 0, make sure to write that down. It'll make sense a little bit later in the video. Next, we need to know what possible flare-ups can happen or how the tendon will become aggravated. So there's a few things, but so the main three are compression of the tendon, which is basically just the tendon being pulled over the bone. If you think of this as your knee joint right here, this is your thigh, this is your lower leg, and then this right here is your knee. So compression would be the tendon, which is the space in between here. The tendon becomes stretched out and it's getting pulled over the bone. So that's what you could think about as compression. Things like deep squats have really, really high compression. Another thing that causes a lot of pain is high loads. So if you're not ready for the load, like, I don't know, if you're doing 400-pound back squat, you're probably not going to be able to do a 400-pound back squat if you have knee pain. It'll probably just make it worse. Another thing would be fast movements, so jumping, cutting, sprinting. Those are often very, very provocative for tendons. For the training portion of the rehab, it's going to be broken down into a few phases, but if you have anywhere above a 7 out of 10 knee pain, just stop doing what you're doing and wait for it to get down to about a 6 or a 7 out of 10 knee pain. Then we can start with isometrics. So you could do so first of all, what are isometrics? Isometrics are just holding a position. So a wall sit is an example of an isometric. So we're not actually moving, but there's still tension in the muscle. So we went over earlier that compression will provoke knee pain. So maybe don't start with a squat for your isometric. You can try a wall sit would be an okay isometric, but my favorite isometric to do would be some sort of shear force knee loading. So that would be something like a knee extension. If you have one of those machines, knee extension would be a great exercise to do. Or if you don't have the machine, you could do a manual knee extension. So you would interlock your fingers like this, put them right here on your shin, and then you'd actively push against your hands, but you wouldn't be letting any movement happen because your arms are pulling back your leg. So those are a few exercises that you can try out and play around with it. Some people respond better to different isometrics. So maybe that one didn't work for you. Maybe the wall sit works better for you. You have to test that out and figure it out for yourself. But the science behind it is that when we hold an isometric, so we hold a position, the stronger parts of the muscle and tendon, they get used first. So after a while, they start to fatigue, and then the weaker parts of the tendon and muscle start to kick in, which is important for this rehab. Isometrics also help with something known as an analgesic effect, which basically just means if you're doing the correct isometric, you will feel a pain reduction after the exercise. So in my case, it was a wall sit. If I were to hold a wall sit for 30 to 40 seconds, after I'd get up and I'd feel like my knee pain went down 1 or 2 out of 10. So it would probably be at like a 3 to 4 out of 10 pain at that point. So that's how you know you picked the right one, is if the right exercise, that is, if your knee pain goes down after performing that exercise. And if it goes up, then you need to find a regressed version or a different exercise. Isometrics also help realign the fibers. So our tendons, when they go through inflammation and tendinopathy, or the holes in our tendons, oftentimes they get mixed up and bunched up, knotted almost. So the isometrics help pull them apart and straighten them, which is good for the tendons. That promotes good tendon health. For the prescription of the isometrics, you want to do 3 to 5 sets, 6 hours apart, for 30 to 60 seconds of time, up to 3 times a day. So what does that look like? That could be holding a wall sit, in my example, for 30 to 60 seconds, taking a minute or 2 off, holding another one, taking a minute or 2 off, holding another one. That'd be 3 sets. And then I would wait 6 hours. At lunchtime, I'd do it again. And then before I went to bed, I'd do it again. So at first, you're gonna wanna be on the lower side of volume. So you're probably not gonna wanna do 3 to 5 sets for 3 times a day. You're probably gonna wanna do 3 sets a day, depending on your pain level. And then you can gradually work up to more volume over time. So when the pain gets to about a 3 out of 10 pain, we can progress on to the next stage. So phase 2 would be tempo training. I did a 5-second down, 2-second pause, 4-second up on my squats. So this is what helped me, I think, remodel my tendon and made my tendon extremely strong. So how do we do this? We have to go really slow, and you have to make sure the weight is not too much. So that's a little bit of playing around that you have to do and figure out what weight works for you. Once you get to about 50 to 70% of your max half squat to quarter squat, so that is, a quarter squat would be like an athletic position. So it's about here. Half squat is just above parallel. So our thigh is not parallel with the ground. Our thigh is probably here. And then a quarter squat would be like here. But just as an example, once you get your squat to about a 50 to 70% of your max squat in one of those two, either half or quarter squat, then we can move on to the next phase. So the third phase would be the force absorption phase, which basically just means we're absorbing force. So we could start off with something like a depth drop from a really shallow height, something at like a 6-inch box. Just step off and absorb force. So I'm gonna do this with my chair right now. So this is what would be a depth drop. Obviously you wouldn't do it from this height at first, but just showing you an example. So you'd step off and then just hold at this bottom position here, and then you'd stand up. So this works. We're just absorbing the force, we're not reproducing it. So that's the third phase. You're gonna progress all the way up to your max vertical jump. So this will be, if you have a 40-inch vertical, I have somewhere like a 25 to 30. So I wouldn't be able to go on to the next stage until I could handle that amount of height in a depth jump. So the box would have to be 30 inches, and I'd have to jump off, stick the landing, have no pain, do it for a few reps, probably like 10 reps, and then I would be able to progress on to the next phase. You're not going to get out of knee pain in this phase. You're still going to have about a 3 out of 10 pain in this phase. If it's anywhere higher, then you have to regress the load, or the height of the box that you're jumping at, or the volume. So that being how many jumps that you do. The final phase is the stretch shortening cycle phase, or the storage and release of energy phase. So again, we're going to start with something like a 6-inch box, but this time we're going to use a stretch shortening cycle. So it's a jump this time. So we could use a box jump to limit the eccentric forces on the ground and take away some of the load from the knee on the landing. So start with a 6-inch box, jump up onto the box, step down. Do not jump down, or else there's no point of having the box there. This is the phase when you can slowly start to incorporate your sport again, but you have to be mindful of the volume that you're already doing and the part of the rehab that you're in. So if you're just getting started at this phase, probably don't go out and practice super hard. Here are some rules to follow throughout the entire training process. It's really important that you follow these rules, or else you won't get out of knee pain as quickly as you should. So 24 hours after your exercise, your pain level should be returning to where it was during your test in the morning. So, 3 out of 10 pain in your squat when you just woke up, got out of bed, and then let's say you did your exercises, your pain went up to a 5 out of 10, and then the next morning it's back at a 3 out of 10 pain. That's okay. That means we didn't do too much. But if we had the same circumstances and our pain went up to a 4 out of 10 pain, that's when we did too much. Make sure the pain does not exceed what the day before was, okay? If you have a huge spike in pains, you have to regress to a previous phase. So if you're on phase 4 and you started incorporating your sport back into it, you're gonna have to take out your sport and just go back to the normal, what you were doing before. So just make sure you ask yourself before you start an exercise or workout, whatever you're gonna do you think this is gonna cause me pain? That's something that I didn't do that I wish I did. I also didn't care. So I just wanted to play. I didn't really take this serious until about 6 months in, and that's when I noticed a drastic decrease in pain level. Make sure to be patient. Tendons take a long time to heal. It could take about 2 to 8 weeks to see any real progress here. So you're probably gonna have about a 3 out of 10 pain in your tendon for a pretty long time, but as long as it's tolerable, that's okay. And over time, it'll gradually become less and less painful until the day that you eventually don't notice that you have any pain anymore. But that takes a long time, like 6 months to a year. So this is a long process. You have to be sure that you are progressing over time, and progress isn't linear, so That's why it's important to track everything in your notes app or a journal or whatever you have, because some days will be really, really, really good, then some days will be pretty bad. But as long as the trend is going up over time, excuse me, that's what we want. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense, and if you have any other questions, contact me and I'll be sure to help you out whenever possible. If this video helped you out, leave a like down below. It helps the page grow a lot, and I really appreciate it. If you have any other questions or concerns, my DMs are free, as well as the comments down below. I'll be sure to help whenever possible. Or IG.